Hello, friends. Welcome into the Loochador Podcast, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors as A&M defeats Bowling Green 26-20. By the way, it is fall, which means it's time to go party with Academy. It feels like summer, though, Billy. Like for tailgating, it's been really, really hot, even though we're getting close to October. But Academy Sports and Outdoors is the place to get all your tailgating needs and get your hunting gear, because, you know, I'm the resident hunter in the family.
I'm ready to get some fall weather gear.
Yep.
From Academy is what I'm ready to do.
You're a flannel guy, right?
No? But not really. But it is good to have like a just throw it on fall Academy jacket or two.
Yep.
Just, you know, like a nice, you know me, I go to my little stylish shopping for game days, which I haven't done this year, and we're falling behind because there's only 8 left. And we'll do that hopefully in Dallas this week, but probably have to go stop at Academy for some outdoor fall. You know, everybody needs winter clothes. You forget the fall gear.
Yeah.
Like we go right now, my fall clothes consist of hoodies, thin hoodies, thick hoodies, and shirt jackets, shackets.
Shackets.
Academy's got some shackets, is what they've got too. So you could get those flannels to wear over something. Done.
Let me ask you a question about football, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Is it possible, and I think it is, but I'm just going to ask it theoretically and then we'll get into it, to be overly critical of a victory because of what I want to see from a football team, as opposed to the reality is two things can be true. Bowling Green's a really good football team, and A&M did not play at the level that I think that I wanted to see them play at for 4 sustained quarters.
Yeah, I agree with both things. I think Bowling Green's a really good, I don't say really good MAC football team, but I wouldn't say they're like a really good team in college football, but they're about as good as you're going to play when you sign up to play a MAC team or a Conference USA, or which I think the MAC's a lot better, or even a AAC type team. Like Bowling Green. Okay, I'm watching that game yesterday, and I see them warming up, and I see the tight end and Basilak and all his experience. He won a starting job at Missouri and started for, was it 1 year or 2?
At Indiana 1 year.
And in Indiana, won two different Power 5 schools. I looked at them physically. They didn't look like those normal, smaller schools. You could tell they had some transfers in there. You could tell they had older guys. As much as I hate to say it, walking around before the game and seeing that football team, they reminded me more of like the App State, I hate to even say that, the App State team that came in here and beat A&M. I've watched A&M struggle and lose to lower out-of-conference games in the past, struggle and lose. I've seen Nicholls State. I saw McNeese that we joke with Seth about in 2000. I've seen Nicholls State in 2017. I've seen them lose to Arkansas State. I've seen them almost lose to Florida International. This is getting kind of depressing. They've won most of these games. Who did Sherman lose to in his first game? Was that Arkansas State? Then who did Fran lose to in the early going? But I've seen them lose these out-of-conference games. I've seen them play them way too close. I've seen Fresno State come in here and take A&M to like 3 or 4 overtimes. This team looked more like App State in that before the game, unlike those other teams I'm talking about, before the game you could see them and go, okay, they look different than your typical. So you could tell they were an older, more physically mature team, particularly in the trenches. Their defenders looked good. You could tell they had some portal guys. The tight end, we'll talk about him a lot. He was elite. And a veteran quarterback. And I loved what both their coordinators did.
Yeah.
I thought the defensive coordinator basically said, beat us throwing the football. Marcel Reed, be accurate down the field, make the right reads. We want to see if you can hold up under the mental and physical pressure. And receivers from A&M, we need to see you make plays if you want to beat us. I think that's what they did. And I think that plan worked as well as they could have hoped for it to, realistically work. And then offensively, I loved what they were doing in terms of kind of keeping the Aggies off balance, and they connected with just enough in the way of big plays against a defense that they probably went in knowing if you put enough pressure on them, you hit them with enough stuff, eventually you'll catch a broken play. And they did that really twice. One was a trick play, the other one was a bust. So start off with that. Really impressive for that level. And I'm going to tell you this. As I'm watching that game, I'm going, two things. A&M better not lose this football game. And I don't care how much they win by, they better not lose. Because I don't know, other than perception to people out there that around the country that always root for that level team to beat this level team. Certainly the folks in Austin and Baton Rouge and wherever else they hate the Aggies the most, we're really rooting for that. And we've been on the other side of that watching games on TV. But outside of that, I'm going Bowling Green against Arkansas, Bowling Green against Florida, Bowling Green against Notre Dame. Hello, Northern Illinois. Bowling Green against Auburn. I think Bowling Green against South Carolina. I think we're giving them a little too much love in the early going. And I'm going to tell you what. You want to play this game, Bowling Green against UCLA. And the reason I say that is I watch LSU struggle way more with a bad UCLA team than they should have. My point is, most of these teams Texas A&M is going to play the rest. How about number 7, Missouri?
Right.
Missouri that took double overtime to get past Vandy a week after beating Boston College and rallying to win 27-21. Both of those at home. You don't think Bowling Green can match up with Vandy, who just lost to Georgia State or Georgia Southern or BC? I'm just telling you, they should have won by more. There's no excuse, even in year one as under a new coach, for Texas A&M to lose to a team like that at home. But they didn't. Were they tested? Yeah. I'd have been more frustrated had I felt like I didn't watch the game and see opportunities for A&M to win comfortably, which I did. I also, when you say two things can be true, now if we're being really honest, I would feel a hell of a lot better about A&M's prospects in these next couple weeks, which I'm not saying they can't go beat Arkansas neutral, beat Mizzou at home, go win on the road at a bad Mississippi State team. But I would feel a lot better about the next couple weeks had the Aggies played a better football game last night. I wanted to see this team that I said showed a hell of a lot of maturity in going out to Florida and handling business from wire to wire the way they did on the road with a first-time starter at quarterback. I loved the way that looked like just a team that was really figuring it out and getting it. And then they came back, and I said it last week, I wanted to see them build on that and handle up against a team that they were still physically superior to. Still, obviously those coaches would trade players with these coaches in a heartbeat, with maybe a couple of exceptions across the 22, right? I wanted to see A&M go and send an early message. And maybe it was 13-3 at halftime, but they get a stop on that first drive and they scored. It's 20-3.
Right.
And it's just comfortable from there on.
It just feels different at that point.
I would have felt great, and I would have felt so much better about kind of like where this team's heading and their trajectory. Now, by no means am I letting a close win over that type of team. Again, I think that's as quality, let's call it a mid-major. It used to be group of 5. Now it's power for whatever they're calling it. Call it a mid-major. Okay? Let's take a basketball term here. It doesn't faze me for the rest of the season that A&M struggled to beat a mid-major. It was disappointing in that I know by watching that game what they could have done in order to put it away, and I wanted them to do that because it would have just been, to me, a next step in the progression, and I would have expected them to take another step next week and another step the week after. It doesn't mean they can't. But I just think, what did Elko call it? Atrocious? What was the word he used? I forget what he used. It wasn't a very flattering word for the performance. And, that's a step back.
Yeah.
And luckily it wasn't 2 steps back because, well, it doesn't need to be 2 steps back or they'll lose to Arkansas next week. It needs to be 1 step back. As long as your step back is a win, it's okay. They're learning. Now they know, hey, you let your guard down against a team like this, you're not good enough to coast and win. You almost let your entire season get away from you last night. So many different ways. You couldn't push that lead out. You had to settle for field goals in the red zone. They hung around. You got a punt blocked. Your defense really bailed you out there.
Yeah, it did.
That was their shining moment.
And they missed.
Yeah, you got a punt blocked, and they missed the field goal there. And then
it changes the way the game's played. By the way,
you got to stop. You couldn't put it away, and you had to kick a 47-yard field goal. Credit Randy Bond. He missed 2 the week before.
Made all 4.
Made all 4, including one that really, it was like, if he missed that. So Mike Elko showed a lot of faith in him with the play call on 3rd down because it was a conservative play call. It was more like you would do on the 20. It was 3rd and 7 and you ran it. And they ran it, I think knowing that a field goal to put you up 9 makes it your odds of winning the game, go through the roof.
Right.
That there was like how many times was that? 6 minutes, 5 minutes? When he hit that field goal, there were 7:15 left.
Yep.
42 yards. And that would have been 47 had they got stuffed on that 3rd down run. So you took a risk there to say run it, but you went low percentage because you didn't want to risk turning the ball over or anything like that or a sack. So you said kicker in the clutch, Randy, I expect you at home to make a 42-yard field goal, and he did. And so, but they didn't score a touchdown there to put it away. They get the stop, you fumble it on the next play, and this game comes down to an onside kick. So hopefully they learned a valuable lesson, which is they didn't maintain, in my opinion, I don't think there's any way you could argue, they didn't maintain that same level of focus, and they did not bring it, that level of focus and execution, which I think the two tie in together, they didn't bring it from one week to the next. And I don't know if they got a little ahead of themselves after that first drive touchdown.
Did they look good on that drive?
Well, here's the thing. They shouldn't have gotten too fired up about it because that was a hard-earned drive.
They had, 2 third-down conversions and a 4th down conversion.
Great throws on 3rd down. There was a 4th down conversion. They were barely moving the chain sometimes. Then it was a great throw from Marcel, even better catch from Theo. That was a hard-earned 80-yard or 75-yard drive to open the football game. And that was kind of a sign of things to come. Nothing came easy for the Aggies last night. And credit Bowling Green. But again, also, I think there were chances there for A&M to have us feeling a lot better today, Nuño. What I feel like right now is we're 4 games in. And game 1 was a colossal disappointment. Game 2, you just kind of handled your business, whatever. Game 3 was a smashing success. And game 4 was a disappointing performance, but winning a football game is never disappointing, especially, again, this wasn't McNeese. I know Texas played ULM yesterday. There's been some good ULM teams. That wasn't one of them. That's a team, the bad A&M team, beat 47-3 last year.
Yeah, sure.
This was a good Bowling Green. This is like Louisiana Tech under Sonny Dykes. Shout out Sonny Dykes getting thrown out of the iron skillet yesterday.
Yeah, how about that?
But that was like La Tech in 2012 when they needed every bit of Johnny's magic to win that game. That's the level that this team is on. They're not world beaters, but they're like 2012 La Tech. That was a 10-win team.
Part of the problem, though, Billy, I think, at least from my perspective, when I'm watching the game, is I didn't see certain things that I wanted to see. Like, I think for 3 straight games, the offensive line mashed. This particular game, I don't think that they mashed. Here's a stat, which is weird because
Don't hit me with PFF stats.
No, not a
please.
PFF. This is a Luke Evangelist stat. Because if you think about it, Marcel almost throws for 200, rushes for 90. So I shouldn't be complaining about the offense, but the ground game is rolling. Texas A&M has thrown for less than 200 yards in 4 straight games in the same season for the first time this millennium. And I think it's like...
I don't think it has anything to do with blocking.
You think it has to do with the wide... Well, I think
Marcel...
missed some throws.
We'll talk about Marcel in a minute. He missed some open throws. I think he had plenty of time to throw for that game. I think he had plenty of time to throw. And I think that Bowling Green basically said, screw you.
You have to throw on us.
We're going to line up with 7, 8 for you to block. And we're selling out. And if you want to big play us out of this stadium, so be it. But you're going to block. In the run game, you're going to have to handle 7 or 8 of us. 7.5, whatever you want to call it. But they sold out. And I think the Aggies, the run blocking wasn't bad. I saw multiple plays, and this is something I think you'll see Trooper Taylor continue to drill these guys on. I saw multiple plays where a guy was blocked. Hunter and I were talking about this today because I asked him because he know where the double team was at.
Right.
And instead of running right off that double team, a running back would bounce it outside or too far inside and get drilled for no gain, which was like an easy 5-7 yard run. So I think they're still learning in that regard because I think Le'Veon Moss is running like a son of a bitch right now. He's still running tough.
Yep.
That was 90 hard yards on 16 carries the other night. Physical, give Bowling Green credit. I mean, those were physical runs. There was a lot of contact. He kept coming back. But I'm telling you, I did not think the O-line performance was bad at all. Now, was it what we saw up at Florida or, no. But I think the bigger issue for the Aggies, if you watch that tape, were missed opportunities in the passing game down the field. And in that first game, I said there weren't many guys open at all. There were guys open against Florida. Marcel took advantage. Last night, I think they were you go back and watch the tape. There were guys open for some big plays, like touchdowns. One Marcel missed on the throw.
Yep.
A couple of others, one in the red zone and one that would have been a long touchdown to Terry Bussey. He did not see the open guy. And we'll go into this Marcel thing then, I guess. You saw yesterday why he's so tantalizing as a young quarterback in this program and a future potential star versus a guy that, in a perfect world, Connor to come out and play the way he did, in the past, stayed healthy, and you got a reliable backup in Marcel that can finish a game and then maybe take the reins next season. That's not how things have gone. He's been thrust into action, and I think last night you saw growing pains. That's what I cautioned before the Florida game. To his credit, he didn't show many, which is wild that's how he did on the road. But I think week 2, with game tape, I think Bowling Green said, here's our scheme. This guy's got to prove it. And I think he missed throws, period. Yep. I don't think that was the only issue. I mean, I still think, Bowling Green was doing a good job of defending. And I also think Marcel Reed's a big part of the reason they won this game.
Yeah.
He was so calm. He didn't fluster. He didn't rattle. And down the stretch, one turnover loses you that game. He didn't turn the ball over. He made plays with his legs when he wasn't able to with his arm, but he never was scared to throw.
What's so fun about fun? It can take any form. Be a sacred ritual.
Who wants chicken?
Or a random whim. For us, fun is everything. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
David, I just thought he was just the poise and composure down the stretch of that game, and everything wasn't going well for him. Look, if I'm sitting there saying, he's going to the sidelines and they're going, hey, you missed that one, and receivers are saying, hey, I was open, that's enough to make a young QB's head spin. You're in a game that you probably weren't expected to be in the fourth quarter. And I just thought he showed a great deal of calm and poise. Now, were they able to finish drives? No. Not down the stretch there, but I just thought he was really good in with the game on the line. It was just in a game where one mistake could have been catastrophic. He did not make it, and he also didn't go into a shell like I've seen young A&M quarterbacks and young quarterbacks that A&M's played against.
Right.
Go into late in games, in close games. And so I thought that part was impressive to me. But I think what we saw last night, if we're being very realistic and honest, I think he'd sit here and tell you the same thing. That's growing pains. That's your second career start with the team game planning around your talents and liabilities. But again, he's 2-0 as a starter.
That says something.
One on the road in front of 90,000 against the Florida Gators, and one at home again in a game where things got, I think, unexpectedly dicey.
A little tight. So we enter another week with a TBD, right? Because I think
that's the deal.
Yeah.
That's it. You got a TBD. You're talking about, I'm assuming, quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a TBD in terms of what is this football team.
Oh, that
we don't know yet, and that's the frustration. Is we all, and I'm sure Mike Elko and the guys in that locker room are the same way. You'd hoped that they would just be by now like 3 games in a row, and it's just, and they're just kicking ass, and you're going, wow, this team's hit their stride. Look, they haven't hit their stride yet. There's no guarantee that they will through 4 games, and we don't have enough evidence to say there's a guarantee they will. That's the scary part. The part that makes it less scary is Arkansas trailed 17-3 to UAB a week ago. Arkansas was tied with a really bad Auburn team 7-7 on Saturday where they benched Green at quarterback for at least 1, if not 2 series. Yeah. Petrino pulled him out. Auburn stinks.
They do.
Okay? Mississippi State stinks, and then they lost their starting quarterback for the year. Missouri, we're worried about A&M, and rightfully so. How do you think Eli Drinkwitz is feeling right now when they can barely escape Boston College and Vandy at home, and we're probably lucky to beat Vanderbilt despite the fact they had a tailback go for like 210 yards, and they still needed double overtime. So this schedule, South Carolina, I wouldn't want to play them this week in Columbus. I think that'd be a bad setup for A&M right now. Go look at their schedule leading up to that game. I think that's a different football team when A&M goes up there. Point being, you can go up and down this schedule. I mentioned LSU. They're in a dogfight till midway through late third quarter, early fourth quarter with UCLA. Who's going to really stink this year? They already do. Who'd they lose to, UCLA? Was it Hawaii they played in the opener? Indiana. Yeah. So the bad thing is we don't know what we've got with this A&M team yet. We don't know that they're going to, quote, hit a stride and play really good football for several weeks in a row. We don't know how much better they're going to be in the second half of the season after a bye than the first, because we haven't seen enough forward momentum to go all in on saying.
Well, I thought we did last week.
But it's 1 week.
Yeah. And
you can't.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
That's where the disappointment is for me in this week. I'm not disappointed that they won a close game against Bowling Green. I'm not. I would have liked to seen them win by more and put a team. I'm more disappointed that I just didn't feel like we learned enough to feel bullish on like the next few weeks of where this team's going. It's okay, because guess what? They could go win close games in Arlington against Arkansas, because Arkansas is a very flawed team, although scary, with Bobby Petrino wanting not necessarily revenge, but
he wants to beat his old employer. Yeah,
Bobby Petrino, and he wants to bring back to Arkansas what left with him.
Yeah,
he owned A&M. Then he worked here. Now he's back there. He wants to go out in that stadium the way he ushered it in. He ushered it in at 3-0. If you don't think that matters to him, you're crazy. So that part, and he's got the skill weapons to do it. That part's scary. We'll talk a lot about that this week. I think that A&M D-line needs to look themselves in the mirror and say, we're going to whip the ever-living shit out of these guys in the trenches this week. And I think that's the game they have to draw a line in the sand. You can't just expect your offense to click. I think, they can. But you can't just – the defensive front, to me, needs to win this football game. And the O-line. This is a grown man's game. But they cannot be hitting any kind of stride and win a close game up there. Mm-hmm. If they do, can you imagine the 12th man on the following Saturday against number 7 Missouri? It's a whole different level of confidence. It's a whole different atmosphere. It's a whole different, in my opinion, football team by then. So they don't have to be playing like this great football yet. I wish they were. It's scary that they're not because of what's coming up on the schedule. But
it's not.
Those teams are scared too, is my point.
Billy,
you just have to figure it out like they did last night.
The team that played against Florida beats Arkansas and I think beats Missouri.
Oh, for sure.
The team that played against Bowling Green yesterday struggles with Arkansas and struggles with Missouri.
Yeah, well, and probably would lose to Missouri. Although, people don't want to hear this. And look, A&M did not beat a world beater on Saturday. They beat a MAC team. They beat a team that might not win the MAC. They beat a MAC title contender. That team, if you don't think that team would give Missouri fits yesterday, then what do you say about what Vandy and Boston College did? So it makes my point is Mizzou's not playing good football yet. A&M's not playing good football yet. Arkansas is not playing good football yet. But those two teams are 7-1. And you throw A&M in there, and those three teams are 10-2. So it's just going to be who is mentally tougher, who has the better, start in those games, and who has the staying power. Because A&M, Arkansas, and number 7 Missouri, it's going to be a matter of it really feels like who plays better that day and who wants it more. And this is it's a big game for the Aggies. And I know they've won,
10 of 11?
11 out of 12. 11 out of 12 there against them. We all know how close most of those games have been. I think deep down we all know that win or lose, A&M's going to be in almost exclusively tough games from here on out. The outliers are where's number 1 Texas going to be at that time and where's Mississippi State going to be. But all those games in between, I think it's very safe to say, are going to be 4-quarter games. So that is one way that I think this was good practice. This football team, did they just get to 500? 3 games in 21, 12 in 22, 15 games. 13 in 23, so 28 games, and 4 this year, 32 games. I think last night's win got them to 16-16 in their last 32 games. Point being, this is not a program that should assume they're going to win anything.
Yeah.
And so they have to learn how to do it. So in the last 2 weeks, it wasn't dominant at all last night. Certainly wasn't as dominant as you'd hoped, or that it probably could have. And I don't think they should have dominated them, but I think they should have won comfortably as a 22-point favorite and playing at home. But they're not entitled to assume they're going to beat anybody of any level of quality or anybody with any level of talent or any road game. So in the last 2 weeks, they won on the road in the SEC in a tough environment. And then they came home and they won a game that, for all intents and purposes, it felt like was getting away from them.
Yes.
A very uneasy, restless crowd. It felt like they were one mistake from losing. And I don't mean a turnover. I mean like not converting a 3rd and 2 to keep a field goal drive alive. they went for it on a fourth down there where Elko got real ballsy.
Yep.
Where it was like if they didn't get that, things were going to be
Interesting.
really interesting. So it hung in the balance throughout that fourth quarter.
Yep.
And I thought, like that's not what we wanted, but that's 2 weeks of kind of learning what it takes for this team. They're not a young team. I'm not going to call them a young team. They're a new team. There's a lot of new faces. There's a new coordinator on offense. There's a new coordinator on defense. There's a new head coach, and they're kind of learning and figuring it out. But they were certainly in jeopardy of having, that would have been. There's no two ways around it. I can say Bowling Green's a quality, G5 or whatever, while also saying that would have been an absolutely disastrous defeat.
How concerned, or maybe concerned is not the right word, because I think we know the defensive line is really good, but
yeah,
maybe surprised that the sack number, they got 2 yesterday. That's a good number against that team. But the sack numbers through a quarter of the season aren't where, or maybe, because I feel like you're seeing the defensive line cause issues.
I thought they throttled those dudes last night. That running back, it's shocking to me he only had 40 yards. It felt like 42 yards or whatever. It felt like he was running.
It did feel like he was running.
He's good.
Yeah.
Like he is good with the football in his hands. Like if I'm in the SEC and I need a guy in the portal,
I'm getting that guy.
I'd go get that guy. Like he might not be your start. He's good. Like don't tell me that guy couldn't play at Texas A&M right now.
And we know they're tight end too.
Well, that tight end could play anywhere. And talk about going and getting him in the portal, but he'll be in the NFL this time next year. With that said, I thought the defensive line, they clearly got the best of that Bowling Green O-line. You said the two sacks. They had 7 tackles for loss. I thought they, Tweetinger put it out there. He has diarrhea thoughts on Twitter, but he's right. And Nick Scorton was held all night. And I challenge anyone, I'm saying this after a win. It's tough to say after you lose a game. Go back and watch the tape. Nick Scorton, there were plays where his jersey was pulled from me to you. Right in front of the official. They're not calling it. He's getting frustrated at the officials. He was getting after it. And he had some plays where he absolutely blew crap up. I thought Shamar Stewart played a good game, really good for the second week in a row. Shamar Turner had a big sack there and had a couple tackles for loss. I mean, they had the huge takeaway late. Now, they couldn't get off the field on a couple fourth downs. That was getting frustrating, right? But they had the huge takeaway late where Ratcliffe got another interception.
3 straight games.
And then they had a huge stop after the block punt. And then when you fumble the ball right away, they got the stop there too to force the field goal, which it didn't matter because they didn't get the onside. But had got the onside, needing a touchdown versus just needing 20 yards for a field goal is a massive difference. So, look, I think the D-line's fine. Do I want to see more disruptions? So, hell yeah, I do. And do I think that'll come? Yeah, I do. I'm surprised it hasn't to this point, but I will credit Boise.
Bowling Green.
They played like Boise. I will credit Bowling Green. They did so much motion and misdirection and eye candy and getting rid of that ball quickly. A lot of times so quickly that he made bad throws. He was rushing them. That helped A&M. But I thought they did a terrific job of keeping Aggie defenders flat-footed versus being in full-out attack mode. So on some level, I will credit them. On the other level, I will say, you better clean that crap up, because right now as he's watching tape, Bobby Petrino can see every weakness in this defense. Not only that, but he coached against them. He can see every single weakness, and he will try to exploit that, and he will do everything he can to keep from playing into A&M's strengths. So they're going to have to shore up Elko and his staff, but particularly the players, they're going to have to put them in a position, and scheme-wise, and then the players are going to have to really shore up where they're making mistakes, because Arkansas can run the ball. They've got a dual-threat QB, and they've got receivers that can make plays down the field. But they don't do it. They didn't. They did it like crazy in quarters 1 and 2 at Oak State. They didn't do crap after that.
Yep.
They're down 17-3 to UAB, and in the first half couldn't figure anything out. Then they started rolling. Yesterday, for 3 quarters, I think, or so, they had 7 points at Auburn. Benched the QB. So it's scary if they can get momentum. So again, I go that. You can't tell me that I don't think this is a quarterback catch, throw, accuracy. If the Aggies win this football game Saturday, it's going to be because the D-line got after the Razorback O-line.
So this season in particular, if you take away big plays, these games feel completely, and you can't take away big plays. But I guess my point is, yesterday, 2 big plays changed the way that game felt. You can say the same thing about the Notre Dame game. You can say even in Florida in the second half, big plays make a huge difference. And that's, I think, take away those 2 big plays yesterday, you're talking about the game that we thought we signed up for. Close, score-wise.
Yeah. I think more, well, I will say this. Forget the reverse in a big play. That's a good play. It's a trick play. It worked. You got over-pursued. I do think Elko's probably got to be looking at his DB personnel and figuring out who takes good angles and who's missing too many tackles and stuff. Because I do see some angles out there from certain guys that, like, man, you know, like, and I want to see Dalton Brooks keep playing more football.
Yep.
Bryce seems to get himself at bad angles more often than I'd like right now. And I think they're still trying to figure out who's who at corner. But I've been pleased with the defense. It's just against Notre Dame, I can say, hey, they gave up 2 big plays. And it was really 4, but one was a sensational catch. The other one was like a 30-yard run, but the 2 were backbreakers. You can go, if you're going to play a whole football game, a team's going to get a couple of 20 and a 30-yard play. It was the 2 touchdown runs that were backbreakers. But then, you know, McNeese did it once in the first half and throughout the second, just enough to raise an eyebrow. Florida didn't really get any. I mean, they did late. That's a different thing when it's 33-7. But for it to happen again this week, I think it's got to be a real concern for Mike Elko and Jay Bateman, especially going into playing. You just look at the skill guys the next 2 weeks. Green at QB, Armstrong at receiver, Quinn and Jackson at running back, the tight end they got, is it Haas or Hess, however you say it?
Luke Haas.
Haas. And then the next week with Missouri and what they've got with Cook and Burden and the running back that went for 200. Like, these next couple weeks, you're playing real dudes at the skill spots. So it's going to be a new test. I think more than anything, though, the Aggie D-line has got to step up and assert dominance. I think the season is really is at a tipping point on
Going one
Saturday.
direction or another.
Because I just think with a win up there at Cherish World,
Sure.
with the win at Cherish World, I think.
I don't think I've ever said that.
Cherish, yes.
No, I said Jerry's World.
I'm saying that, David.
Charles Pro. Sorry.
I think my friend.
But I ask you why,
My friend
Rollins,
texted me the other day, and she goes, I think you're too rough on Nuño. I said, I am not. So I don't want that out in the universe. He does, MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wearing the Batman, tough guy. Camouflage, really short shorts.
You like them, right?
And a Batman
They're better
shirt.
than the long basketball shorts they used
I
to wear.
don't know what's better.
Why?
You can't find a happy medium.
What? I'm wearing a medium.
So
You're an analyzer. You are the analyzer. Like, if there was a show like there's the Equalizer with Denzel
I'm
Washington,
the
you're the
analyzer.
analyzer. I'm going to
Probably
analyze
so.
his hat, his shorts. All right. Anyway.
it's pretty fair.
Back to Aggie football.
You know what's funny is if
that?
I thought that I walked in here looking just like great every day and just picture of perfection, then it would make more sense. But in 0.0% of my mind do I think that at all. And so it's funny that
You're You know what you are? You're just a guy. You're around. You've always been in the football locker room. That's who you are here and everywhere. So I accept it with grace.
Did you just do one of your commercials?
Hey,
here, there, and everywhere.
and everywhere. But I ask you why, Rollo and James.
What else do we got?
Well, you tell me.
We're talking about Arkansas coming up.
We didn't talk Connor really, and I don't think there's a lot to say right now because it's going to be like I said earlier, a TBD.
Yeah.
But I said last week, I'm still all on board with Connor Wigman. I want to see what he can do, and that does not mean I don't want to see what Marcel Reed can do. I'm actually very happy that you have a guy who's a change of pace guy in Marcel, and I also like the way that Connor throws darts.
I think let's start by saying I don't know if Connor will be available for Arkansas or not. I don't know what is going on with the injury in terms of like a timeline. I do believe it's not something that you would expect is going to be long term. I've said that from the beginning. I still feel that way now. But I don't know if that means this Saturday or not. We'll learn a lot more in the next 2-3 days for sure. But let's play this game that Connor Wigman is healthy enough to play, more specifically after this much time off practice. Because if he's just available to play, but Marcel practices all week and Connor throws a little bit on Friday,
Marcel's your guy.
then I think you go Marcel and Connor's ready to go. But let's just say Connor practices even half the week. If you can get just a couple days of practice this week where he's throwing and it's okay. Let's say he's good to go. That's going to be a very important decision for Elko and Colin Klein, not only to make the right decision, but to also make it in such a way that both quarterbacks stay all in and ready to go. Because you might need both of them on Saturday if they're available. You might need both of them against Missouri. You might need to pull one of them back off the bench in 3 weeks. Who knows?
Right.
We've seen this story all too often here in Aggieland. So who they pick for this week and next obviously could be the difference between a successful first season and not. And then how they go about handling the decision will also be equally as important. So I don't know if it's a healthy I just think that's why I wanted to see this game with Marcel. I wanted to see them test him in terms of his accuracy down the field and seeing the field open receivers and getting the ball to them. And I don't think he did a tremendous job in that department. But then I think he did a terrific job in terms of just being a winner and just competing and being calm under pressure. And I thought that his teammates were calm around him. I couldn't have been more impressed with how he handled down the stretch of that football game. So it's a really tough one for me. But I'll go back to saying what I've always said. I think Connor throwing the football down the field, I think too many people put way too much stock in how bad he looked against Notre Dame, and he looked bad. He looked bad from start, and he looked bad
Finish.
In the middle of the game, right before halftime, and he looked bad on the final drive. It was the worst game we've seen him play. And I don't think it's right, though, for that to be the only game people are kind of looking at him and judging him by. Fortunately, Elko and Klein won't do that, and I think they'll weigh all of these things, which, damn, we could sit here for an hour and kind of go with in every which direction. But I think I said before Bowling Green, and we talked about it, me and Sean and Swope and Kendrick, like, if he went out and would have thrown for 340 yards and 3 touchdowns, like, this conversation, I think, is a lot different. Because I think there were he threw for what, 175 or so? Mm-hmm. I think there were plays there that those numbers were actually attainable.
Attainable, yeah.
Now, I don't know what was attainable running the football within the confines of the offense, but I know he ran for 91 And most of that he generated himself. So those yards absolutely count. So it's interesting. You got a couple of real wild cards at quarterback this weekend up there. You got a couple of real wild cards between the Reed/Wigman, and I think both of those guys, how they play in that environment in a big game where maybe you have to score in the 30s, which A&M, I guess they did. The offense has not produced 30 plus in a game this year. I think they would have against Florida had they, played 4 real quarters and not in that weather. I think they would have lit that defense up like a Christmas tree. But there's wild cards on both sides this weekend at QB. So it's going to make, I think, a crazy series is about to add another crazy chapter.
Let me just throw this out. I'm looking at Arkansas stats against Auburn. Taylon Green, 18 carries for 80 yards, just so you know. So similar number. He actually had very similar numbers to what we saw from Marcel. He also threw 2 interceptions, 12 of 27, 151 yards. Quentin Jackson, who we know is pretty good, 22 carries, 75 yards. Just a little.
Auburn's pretty good defensively.
Yeah. Your boy DJ Durkin.
Yeah, I mean, but the Auburn fans are already complaining about Durkin and the outside containment. I've seen that on Twitter. They're losing their minds on old Durkin. It's funny watching college football right now. And it's for every fan, I think. But you look around the country and it's like DJ Durkin's at Auburn. I'm watching Petrino v. Durkin Saturday. Oh, Jaquinton Jackson, who A&M's playing? Oh, that's former Longhorn quarterback Jaquinton Jackson, who was Duncanville's QBing in those famous games against North Shore. Oh, Green? Oh, he's from Louisville by way of Boise State. It's just a wild circle, it seems like, every single week, in college football when you're watching this stuff now.
OB reminded me, the running back in Mizzou was the running back at App State. So there you go.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
Let
me fact check that before I put that out there.
No, I didn't know that. That's interesting, too. Well, hopefully he doesn't have the same type of success he did his last time here.
I want to make sure I get
Hopefully it wasn't that big running back. Hopefully that guy's gone. It's not. This guy from Missouri's got a lot of speed.
Nate Noel. Yeah, that's him, right?
Yeah, and you know what's funny? You know what's funny about that, or maybe not funny, since he went for 200? Just talking to people in the building at the time, I don't know if it was leading up to that App State game.
Yeah, it's the same guy. Yeah,
it was either leading up to that App State game or after.
You can go back to rolling. Go ahead.
Oh. When did he stop?
Well, I said, let me just fact check it, and he stopped.
Oh, well, you could just keep that, Nick. Don't worry about it. What's interesting, though, at that time in the building, and I don't remember if it was leading up to playing App State or after that game, but I think it was leading up to it. It was like, kind of like there were some rumblings that guy, or maybe it was after, but there were rumblings that he was going to go in the portal. And at the time, Jimbo and the Aggies were very interested in getting him. So I don't know. I don't remember them making like any kind of real run at him, but shoot.
It's pretty good.
He's pretty good. pretty good.
All right, any final thoughts? We've broken down this Bowling Green game, and I think it is what it is. We wanted more, but we're also willing to give Bowling Green the props that they deserve. Veteran team that we knew was going to be tight. That's why I think you took.
I didn't know it was going to be tight. I knew it wasn't going to be easy.
You knew it wasn't going to be 22 and a half.
I thought they'd pull away. Yeah, I thought they'd pull away in the fourth, which, again, Bowling Green cuts it to what here? When Bowling Green cut it 13-10, and A&M took the ball right back and went 8 plays, 75 yards in 4 minutes to push it back up to 10. I truly thought at that point, okay, they got hit right in the mouth to start the third quarter, and they came in one play. I mean, talk about a shock.
Bam.
Just come out to the bell and and it's like, boom. I think to get off the mat immediately, that's like getting caught, dropped, and you bounce back up and say, I'm good. And you get back right into your game plan. They went right down the field, 75-yard touchdown. That's when I felt really good about it. And I thought, this is going to go exactly what I thought. They're going to go up at some point along the way here, 27-10, and the game's going to be over. Whether it ends 34-20 or whatever.
It's over, though, yeah.
That's what I expected. What I didn't expect was on the very next drive, I guess, for, 9 plays, 81 yards with a 40-yard rush. And I think at the very beginning of that drive, they had a 3rd and 10 to get off the field. And basically hit a slant. These are the little margins here. 3rd and 10 right off the rip. They hit a slant, just like same part of the field where Riley Leonard converted the 3rd and 5 on a pass. Same part of the field, same thing, boom, 3rd and 10. Otherwise, you answer their touchdown, you get a 3 and out, they're punting. How much different does this? So it's a fine line, especially when you're playing a quote-unquote lesser opponent, because you let them hang around. And they let them cut that to 2017, and it was truly anybody's game from 5 minutes left in the third on. And man, you had a chance to put it away when it was 20-17. You score a touchdown there, you go up 27-17. You had to kick a field goal. 23-17. You had a chance to score a touchdown again and go up 30-17 and really put it away with 7 minutes left. Kicked a field goal. Let them hang. You know, you get the stop, the interception. Fumble the ball back. 26-20. They're kicking on. They did so many things wrong in that game. What they did right was they just kept fighting through it. And they didn't, there was none of this, here we go again. That was that's the most positive takeaway for me in that one.
All right, that's going to do it for the Loochador Podcast, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. We'll have much more on TexAgs Live Monday morning. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.
Fun, memories, friendship. We're here for all of it. Here for the big moments and the small ones too. We're here for unforgettable triumph, momentary misfortune, and the impromptu throwdown. We're out here each day, chasing something great. Call it adventure, call it play, we call it fun. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.